Go ahead and say it. You thought that once the Hollywood strike was over, things were going to get at least a little bit better. Hollywood and the entertainment industry would learn their lessons. Do we have some news for you? No, I'm just kidding, folks. By the fact that you are viewers of this channel, you already know. They're crazy over there in California, and they're no less crazy today. This time, we've got news about Deadpool 3, news about the Fantastic Four, and yes, Marvel Entertainment keeping it up when it comes to the craziness. The Four is indeed female. The Four is female. You heard it right, folks. Not the Force, the Four. We're talking about Marvel's Fantastic Four when they get ready to do the movie. Before we dive into this conversation, I just want to say thank you to our sources out there. And yes, folks, if you're like, hey, Pro is scooping again. What's going on this channel? He had Star Wars stuff. Now he's got Marvel stuff. Well, the WGA strike is coming to a close, and now the sources can get stuff again, and we can start doing what we were doing before all of Hollywood shut down. Someone who never shuts down, though, is always open for a great conversation, is Michelle of Force of Light. Welcome back.
Yes, good to be here.
Happy to have you. And folks, we're going to dive in right now to the conversation about the Fantastic Four and even Deadpool 3. As we get ready to do so, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button. All right, now this came to us from a high-level source, one of our highest-level sources. Today I'm going to withhold exactly any kind of information that would lead people to know who this is in order to protect them. And I'm also, as I read this, going to be a little careful about what we say that could go back. For example, there's a reference in the beginning of this this message to me about companies and such. We're not going to mention the companies just to be on the very safe side. All right. 6 months ago, according to this source, the Fantastic Four movie was Sue Storm-centric. Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four was only referred to as Mr. Fantastic, ironically in the film, even negatively. And Sue ends up sacrificing, allegedly, and folks, I guess we're getting into spoiler territory, should this all turn out to be true. Also, we're in rumor and speculation as well, because we can't corroborate what this person said, but they have been phenomenal in the past. Sue ends up sacrificing so much of herself being in a relationship with him, and this person thinks, oh my gosh, here we go again. Apparently, Reed Richards is so poorly depicted that some actors even passed on playing the role. They did not want to be involved with this toxic masculinity style portrayal. And apparently the original director also left, at least partly due to this same issue. Now, we'll get into Deadpool in just a moment, but Michelle, the overall message from this source to us, again, very highly placed, is that what is being done to the Fantastic Four movie is largely being done because the original Fantastic Four features essentially four people of European descent. Now, they do have the big rock creature who is not clearly European descended, right? So you've got that going on, and the Torch, well, not easily depicted as Caucasian when in the Torch form. But all of that said, they're trying to meet these quotas again that we've talked about in the past, where Hollywood is like, oh, you've got to have equal representation, or at least, maybe in some cases you have to have more minorities than the majority, whatever that might mean. And so they're twisting themselves in knots, according to the source, trying to figure out how they can make the Fantastic Four be satisfying to the wokesters out there. So the reason I wanted you on, Michelle, today is to talk to us about, how do we present in media? How do we present a depiction of humanity that is appropriate and representative of society, and at the same time, we don't freak out when there's too many quote-unquote white people, or there's too many quote-unquote, and there never is too many of any other group, I guess, but other ethnic groups. Or the other thing that happens is they'll say, oh, you can't present just a male hero, right? If it's just led by a male hero, that is no longer apropos for the age. So how do we appropriately depict things in media, do you think?
Well, I mean, I think I would one, when it comes to something like Fantastic Four, you have source material. So I say, and people, I mean, you need those diehard Marvel fans to get behind this. I say just go with the source material. Like follow how were they depicted in the comics all through the years? And that's how I would personally look to cast. I mean, maybe others won't agree with that. That's personally how I would look to do that. And I feel most people aren't going to care if they're a fan of the Fantastic Four. Because
Right, and this source says this is a smaller property anyway at this point. I mean, this is not the big top tier A level kind of Marvel property any longer.
yes, and then I think if you really, really want to force a race swap or a gender swap, I'd say they'd probably go with a race swap in this situation since you have Sue Storm. I think you need that person better have really won the job. Like they better have been the best option for that role. Like they just screen tested and the chemistry was flying, and then people aren't going to care as much probably if the person truly is great. I know you guys have brought up Samuel L. Jackson being a good example of that.
I'd rather use Denzel Washington at this point. Denzel's the man.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking because Marvel had switched
after Secret Invasion. Michelle, we're a little leery of Samuel L. Jackson.
I didn't watch that. But I think as far as comics, I would just follow source material, and the audience isn't going to care because you follow what they know. It's what they have in their mind, anyways.
But Hollywood, before the strike, they were obsessed with this.
Yes.
It seems like after the strike, they're going to be obsessed with this. So what we're being told is the way they're getting around the fact that they have a bunch of quote unquote white people in these roles is that they're going to make it be about the female. They're going to make it be about the woman. And then they're going to present one of the men in a toxic kind of way. Really, really damage, I guess, from what I'm taking from this. They're going to make the marriage relationship look a little bit more, a little less presentable than what you would hope for, I would say. Right? And we haven't had very many Marvel characters in a marriage relationship.
No.
One that was pleasant and positive.
No, in fact, I would argue one of the things that I know I'll have people come against this, but whatever. As a female, I'm just gonna say it here. Marvel has not done relationships well, and that's what would draw more female audience. I think that's what women like about Superman. You've got Superman and Lois, and if with Spider-Man, you always had him and MJ. So I think that will just be squandering away a good opportunity to actually, for female audiences to maybe enjoy Fantastic Four a little more. And I'm not saying because Sue Storm is the center. I'm saying if you did a healthy relationship that was like desirable, something that would make a little girl say, "Ooh, I want that when I'm older." That actually would appeal to the female sex at large. And then as far as like just focusing on Sue Storm, there we go. That doesn't make any sense because Fantastic Four, at least to my knowledge, has always been very much an ensemble situation, which is kind of unique because we're used to getting these one-offs, whether it's Black Panther, Spider-Man, where it's just the one person. So what kind of makes Fantastic Four unique is you have an ensemble. You've got four of them. And so there really shouldn't be one focus on one character necessarily. I feel like you should be able to kind of balance it out. And maybe they focus a little more on the two married couple. I mean, maybe, I know they're kind of, I guess, the more popular ones in the four, but it should be fairly balanced at the end of the day. So I don't understand this. Just again, I know you guys have covered Iger saying he's going to cool off or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
don't believe it until they actually put money behind lowering the volume on the culture war.
Yes, I will just say I don't believe that if they continue with the script, if this is indeed the script that is right.
Yes,
because this is a great opportunity to have an ensemble cast and to represent like a good romance in a Marvel movie.
Well, let's talk about this ensemble idea that you've just discussed, because as it pertains to the X-Men, we also have some information as well out of the same source. And this regarding Deadpool 3 and the integration of the X-Men. I think you're going to enjoy this one. Okay. Here's what we've got. In regards to Wolverine as Jackman, you're going to get the real Wolverine. So no holds barred. It's the real Wolverine. However, because it's a multiverse thing, and because, again, this is a movie now being led by two white guys, they are going to want to insert female Wolverines or female characters because it's a multiverse. You're going to have many characters of different ethnic backgrounds to even out the fact that they are squeamish. Marvel is squeamish about having two lead characters who are white and male. Because of the whiteness that OG callbacks necessitate, they try to balance that out with other gender, race, and sexual orientation bent versions of the same character. That's the current mindset behind Marvel with this multiverse situation. And then this source, I love this. And so, you know, we learn stuff from the source learns stuff from us. The source says, I never thought that ESG stuff was for real, but apparently because the story may have featured a straight Caucasian romance in it. Let's see. It says they need to get the highest ESG points possible, so they're going to add these different backgrounds to quote unquote balance that out as well. So yeah, so that's where we're at right now. Apparently, too, there's a strategy at Marvel right now. They're okay with putting out a trailer that's just centered on the two white guys. So that's Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. But in the future, they are going to have to rebalance that. So the idea is put out the original or the first trailer, and it's okay for those characters to be featured heavily. But then later on, once they have quieted the noise, right, by Bob Iger, then they're going to go back into full representation. Michelle, here's my question for you. If you go back to the 70s and you look at commercials from the 1970s in North America, you're going to find that the vast majority of the commercials are just featuring people of European descent. And I am fully on board with that not being okay. Because no matter what your background, what your skin color, you know, you should be able to turn on the television or go to the movies and see people like you doing heroic things and also doing bad things. And that's a key component, too, that people miss out on. You have to have non-virtuous characters of every background as well, or else you give the false impression that people of a certain demographic group are virtuous just by virtue of being born into that group. And that's wrong, and that leads into all kinds of major human errors and flaws. But we want to not have the situation from the 70s and perhaps the early 80s where things were monolithic in the presentation in media. At the same time, we don't want to fall into a situation where we are neurotic, not nerdrotic, neurotic, trying to, you know, oh my gosh, we have white people. We can't have, you know, we got to limit the white people. Oh my gosh, we got a man. We you know, get somebody of the alphabet from, you know, you get the idea. Yeah. I'm stumbling over myself as I consider what YouTube will take me down for. But Michelle, how do we strike the right balance between those two?
Well, I mean, you even go back to the 70s and 80s, I think, and like you said, there could have been more representation back then. But look at the demographics of the U.S. back then. They were drastically different than they are today. And it was mostly white. It was like up in like probably the 80 percentile. So that is largely why that's mostly what you saw. And I think today I would just kind of think what's kind of right. I don't know, follow kind of the demographics we have, like try to be accurate to society of what we have. And then
now, you know, they're not going to do that. They are no, you know, they could never do such a thing,
but that would be the wisest in my opinion. It's more like, it's like, I mean, it's what reality is. And then it's okay to have a Black Panther and 99% of the people in it be of African descent. It's absolutely okay. It's you know, talking about Sue Storm, we've got a Marvel movie coming out this November that centers around 3 women. So like, you know,
you don't have to balance that though. When that's there, no balancing necessary. That just comes straight out of the box with a happy smiley face for all the folks in Hollywood who are part of this woke movement.
Yes. I mean, I know they'll put why did I just go blank on his name? Samuel L. Jackson's character. They'll put him in it a little bit just to have male presence, but it will mostly be the 3 of them. But my point is, if you want to do this, fine, but that's why all the more you shouldn't feel this need to represent in every single movie, because you're doing lots of different movies with different representation already. It just doesn't make a lot of sense, really.
Well, I will say that on one potentially positive note here, the source does say that the Deadpool 3 movie is considered to be the soft launch of the X-Men into the MCU. So, not sure exactly which characters will appear, but this is the beginning of Kevin Feige finally getting a hold of those Fox-acquired properties. They spent big money on them, and hopefully they can do them right, because otherwise we're going to be right back in a situation where Bob Iger has much to say about investors, and they're probably not going to believe him any longer because he's looking a little bit like the Bobby who cried wolf, or in the case of the Disney company and their strange interior discussions, perhaps the boy who cried hippo. All right, Michelle, lest we circle the drain in Bob's office shower, give us your final thoughts on the situation with Marvel, and then tell us where we can find you on this great, big, beautiful web.
With Marvel, I think it's wisest, again, I said this at the beginning, I think it's wisest to follow close to source material. I think that keeps everyone happy. It was like the successful source material that has been proven to be successful. I mean, obviously they can make little tweaks, but people want things to look, to feel like what they're used to, whether that's Blade or whether that's Fantastic Four. And I mean, Marvel especially already has quite a bit of diversity in its characters. And I mean, that's great. Show it, but you don't have to force any additional necessarily.
Right. And I think too, be true to humanity. So when you present these characters,
exactly.
If you checked some boxes by putting a character in the movie, that does not give you carte blanche to then say, oh, we don't have to develop that character because they're already fully developed by being part of whatever categories. No, that's not the way this works. All of these characters need strong backstories, strong personalities. They need to be interesting, and just being part of some demographic or some ethnicity or sexual orientation, that doesn't make them de facto interesting. So get that through your head, writers, as you get ready to go back into the writing rooms. The WGA strike is over. We suspect that SAG-AFTRA will follow and Hollywood will get back to work. We only hope that as they go back to work, that they work on things that the folks out there are going to enjoy. Frankly, though, I have my worries that things are going to be worse returning than they were when we went on the original strike. That did not have to be the way that it turned out, but it seems to be the way that we are going. We will see how that goes in terms of the money very soon. All right, folks, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and when you click it, you do stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Do you think we've been too harsh about the 4 is female? And what do you think about these leaks and rumors out of Deadpool 3, the X-Men, and the Fantastic Four? Again, folks, I will remind you that this is rumor and speculation territory. However, this is information that we are receiving from one of our very best sources out there. We send a huge thank you to this source, as well as the other sources who are now opening up those floodgates now that Hollywood is back to work and people can see stuff and send it our way. Always, of course, in the most ethical manner possible. But we want to say a huge thank you to all of those doing that. We are appreciative. And if we are a little bit behind in responding to some of you out there, some of you who are in those high places of power and entertainment, we promise we will get back to you. We're just encumbered a bit by the amount of communications we're receiving, and that is a good thing. All right, folks, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
This is Wilton the Troll reporting for That's Park Place, and I'm surrounded by loving and adoring people who are peacefully trying to make sure that poor kids aren't cold in the winter. And just behind me, you can see a totally natural bonfire for baking cookies or making marshmallows.
Yeah, so, Wilson, we really appreciate the effort and stuff, but we're looking for real and, accurate news reporting on that Park Place.
So not like most news outlets, huh?
No.